guys? This is lesson number 2. This is going to be about holding the pick, okay? So, I get a lot of questions about the pick, and I actually remember when I first started, I didn't want to use the pick. I was perfectly content just, plucking away with my thumb. I thought, oh, I'm going to be a thumb picker. Derek Trucks doesn't use a pick, so I'm not going to either. Well, the thing is that if you're learning guitar, you're much better off using a pick, because if you don't use a pick, your style is going to be limited. You're going to have to employ certain techniques in your playing, which may be good for some things, are not going to be good for most common music. If you're trying to play rock music without a pick, you're going to be in dire straits. If you want to play metal music without a pick, you're going to be in dire straits. Gypsy jazz, you need to use a pick. Blues, maybe not necessarily, although for many different styles, you will need a pick. If you're trying to play specific songs, you'll need a pick. If you're trying to copy certain artists, you'll also need a pick. So, from my view, you want to come from a position of choice, where like if you have the ability to use your fingers to pluck and a pick, you'd be much better off than just having one modality, such as your fingers. In the same way that once you learn to use the pick, I'd like to see you learn how to use your fingers too. So anyway, getting right into it, I hope you'll use the pick. So what I like to show people for the pick is you want to think of an L, okay? You're going to make an L with your fingers, okay? So you're going to take the pick. You could get any one that you'd like. I use mediums and heavies for my use. You can use whatever's comfortable to you. For now, if you're just beginning, go get a box of Fender medium tortoiseshell picks. Those are the industry standard. They're not. And what the medium, heavy, and light thing means is the thickness of the pick. This would be considered a heavy pick. The lighter the pick, the more flexible it is, and the more give it has on the strings. The heavier it is, the less give it has on the strings, and a more solid tone is produced. It's more commonly used for lead lines and soloing rather than just picking, although you can certainly use it for that. Okay, so the way to hold the pick properly, I like to think of it as an L. I like to start by placing the pick in the middle of my thumb, okay? In the middle of my thumb with it pointed directly down, like an L shape. Then I take my forefinger, lock it in, I take my middle finger for support, and there you have it, okay? So it should look like that. Should look like that. Should look like that. Okay. Now, the second thing that you need to know about picking is when you're picking, you want the pick to be somewhere in between strongly gripped enough so that it doesn't fall out of your hand, and light enough that you can glide it across the strings. It should look like this when you take your finger. So do you see what I'm doing? I don't have a death grip on it, and it's also not too light, okay? If I have a death grip, it doesn't move at all. If I hold it too light, it's coming out of my hand and falling. Okay? So that's tip number 2, is have it be loose enough to move, yet hard enough to stay in your fingers, okay? So point it straight down, loose enough to move, hard enough to stay in your fingers. The third tip is you always want to be, for beginners, okay? For beginners, you want to strum straight across the strings. You don't want to go too much like that. You don't want to go too much like that. You want to strum directly across the string. Okay? Third thing with picking is that it should be a very relaxed motion, and it comes from your wrist. It doesn't come from your arm. This is no good. It's too much tension, and it's not sustainable, and it hurts. You're gonna wind up giving yourself a some type of tendon problem. So you want it to be from your wrist. So if you're just starting, mute the strings and do that. Make sure that you're hitting all 6 strings. Think of it as painting, okay? If you want to go really slow, paint the strings. I just realized sometimes for myself, when I switch, I just realized subconsciously, when I strum, I only use my forefinger and my thumb, okay? I only do that because that's all the support I need. When I have my middle finger on there, when I do this, it's a bit, I mean, you can do whatever you want. I realize that I switch back to the middle finger when I need more strength for the single notes, but for the lines, I just use one finger. But again, if you're just starting, just get this down. You can certainly use the two fingers thing. Yeah, so just to recap, first thing, pick in the thumb, 90 degrees, forefinger, middle finger, boom. Second thing, light enough to move, hard enough to stay in. You don't want it falling out, you don't want it death grip, you don't want that. Third thing, strum across the strings from your wrist, not from your arm. Not this, but this. Not this, but this. Not this. You want that. You want it to be very relaxed. If you're not relaxed, slow it down. That's what I would say to everybody, is that if you feel like you're just like, oh, you're gonna tire your arms out, so you don't want to do that. So that's the second lesson on picking.